Hi beautiful people! Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Joy. This is my second update on the Years of Usage eyeshadow project plan created by Sarah Catherine. The goal of this project is for me to use the eyeshadows in the project 25 times because we are in the year 2025. I am working on 200 eyeshadows in this project, and the eyeshadows are actually eyeshadows I worked on in the previous Years of Usage eyeshadow project plan, except for 5 eyeshadows which I just started working on this year. In my first update, I managed to hit goal on 6 eyeshadows. For this update, I hit goal on more than 6 eyeshadows. Let me start my update with the ColourPop Through My Eyes eyeshadow palette. This one, I only used 3 eyeshadows from here. In my first update, I used this eyeshadow palette 5 times, but equivalent to 4 eyeshadows. I have not hit goal on any of the eyeshadows here yet. The most number of uses is 23, and that is for the shade Sandalwood. I am at 23 uses, and Misbehave, I am also at 23 uses. Next eyeshadow palette is the Wet n Wild Color Icon Comfort Zone eyeshadow palette. This one, I managed to hit goal on 2 eyeshadows in my first update. And the eyeshadows are this eyelid shade and this definer shade. For this update, I hit goal on 1 eyeshadow, and it is this crease shade. The eyeshadows I've used in this update, apart from the one I hit goal on, is this eyelid shade and this crease shade. In my first update, I used these 3 shades. So I've now hit goal on 1 eyeshadow. Next eyeshadow palette in the project is this Smashbox Golden Hour eyeshadow palette. And for this one, I did not use this eyeshadow palette in my first update, but for this update, I used 3 eyeshadows, and the eyeshadows are this first shade, this is Dope, and then Hero is this shade, this first shade, and then Psych, this shade. So I've used 3 shades, and I managed to hit goal on 2 shades. And they are Psych and Dope. So I've now hit 3 eyeshadows, hit goal on 3 eyeshadows. Next one is the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea eyeshadow palette. For this one, I use 4 shades, and I hit goal on 1 shade. The shade I hit goal on is Sunset. This one. I've used Marina. This one. I've used Siren. This one. And I've used Riptide. This one. So there are 4 eyeshadows in here that I've used. So far, I've now hit goal on 4 eyeshadows. Next eyeshadow palette is the Pure Soiree Diaries. I've also hit goal on an eyeshadow here. In my first update, I hit goal on 1 eyeshadow. And for this update, also 1 eyeshadow. First update, the eyeshadow I hit goal on is this shade, Twinkle. And for this update, I hit goal on the shade Splurge. I only used 3 eyeshadows in here for this update: Private Party, Splurge, and Glitzy. So these 3 shades. I've used more of the eyeshadows here in my first update. Next eyeshadow palette in the project is the I Heart Revolution Lemon Drizzle. This one, I did not hit goal on any of the eyeshadows in my first update, and I also did not hit goal on any of the eyeshadows in this update. There are only 3 eyeshadows here that I've used. and I've used them once each, and it is the shade Citrus ones, Fluffy ones, and also Zingy ones. Next is the Winky Locks Kitten Palette. For this one, I did not hit goal on any of the eyeshadows in my first update, and I still haven't hit goal on any of the eyeshadows here. But I've used this more. In my first update, I used this twice, but for this update, I've used this 4 times for 3 shades. So one is the shade, this first shade, this is called Strut. And then I've used this shade, this is called Cut Eye, and I've used this shade twice. The shade name is Boots. Next eyeshadow palette is the You Can Be Belonging eyeshadow palette. For this eyeshadow palette, I did not hit goal on any of the eyeshadows in my first update. But for this update, I managed to hit goal on one eyeshadow, and it is this shade Jet. The other eyeshadows I worked on in this update is the shade Wild Heart, Hell Ride, Riff, and Wanderlust. Next eyeshadow palette I'll provide an update on is the Urban Decay Gwen Stefani eyeshadow palette. For this one, I did not hit goal on any of the eyeshadows in my first update, but for this update, I managed to hit goal on one eyeshadow, and it is this shade, Blackout. And this is the only eyeshadow I actually used from this eyeshadow palette. I've used this more in my first update. Next update is on the Dreamland You Can Be eyeshadow palette. This one, I did not hit goal on any of the eyeshadows in my first update. I did not get to hit goal on the eyeshadows here when I worked on this in the previous years. So this one, I actually need to work on more. For this update, I used this 8 times. It is the same number of uses from my previous update. The eyeshadows I work on in this eyeshadow palette are Inspire, Idolize, New Classic, Ethereal, Blank Canvas, and Goddess. Next eyeshadow palette in the project is the Glam Metals from Crown eyeshadow palette. This one, I did not hit goal on any of the eyeshadows in my previous update, but for this update, I managed to hit goal on 3 eyeshadows. So we have Wild Thing, I'm now at 25 uses. The Wicked, I am also at 25 uses. And Pop Rock, I am at 25 uses. I have now hit goal on 11 eyeshadows. Next eyeshadow palette in the project is the Soft X Makeup Revolution eyeshadow palette. For this one, I hit goal on 2 eyeshadows. And the eyeshadows are Pink Champagne, this one, and Strawberry Sweets, this one. So that's 13 eyeshadows now. 3 more eyeshadow palettes to go. The next one is the Beauty Glaze Perfect Neutral eyeshadow palette. For this one, I hit goal on 3 eyeshadows. The 3 eyeshadows are Muse, Scarlet, and Black. In my first update, I hit goal on 1 eyeshadow, and it is the shade Apricot. 2 eyeshadow palettes to go. So we have here the Trenchcoat Showroom. For this one, I hit goal on 2 eyeshadows in my first update. So that would now make it 6 eyeshadows. The eyeshadows I hit goal on in my first update are the shade Coat Hanger, this one, and the Color, this one. For this update, I hit goal on 5 eyeshadows. The shades are this one, this is called Room Lighting, and this shade Autumn Coat. And then I also hit goal on Silver Button. And then I also hit goal on Woolen Coat and Gold Button. And lastly, the eyeshadow palette that I just brought into the project is this eyeshadow palette. This is Decaloo. Because this one, I haven't used this yet in my previous years of usage eyeshadow project pan. I'm starting with 0. It will take me longer to hit goal on the eyeshadows here. But the eyeshadows here, I actually do not find it difficult for me to reach for. So far, I've already used this. I've used this 8 times for this update. And in my first update, I've used the eyeshadows here, a total of 6 uses. The eyeshadows I've used for this update are all of the eyeshadows except for the last shade. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!